here, took tons of notes on the games. Okay, first thing I noticed, like, this feels a lot like other similar games like Garuga, that have like a lot of bullet storm and stuff that you're avoiding and dodging. The controls are a little harder because there's like a default inertia that the ship had, so it couldn't stop on a dime and like change positions and pivots, so there'd be times that would kind of fly off the screen or in a direction that wasn't intentional, get me in trouble. And sound would have added, I think, like sound effects would have added more to the game than the music. Like I love that you had music, but just like a little, when my bullets are hitting and they're doing the right thing and it's telling me, hey, you did the right thing, you know, like little sound effects, or when I'm taking damage, like playing sound. You have hit reactions, like they flash red, so that's great. But like the more messaging you can layer into what you're doing to communicate to players will really help sell it. I thought the power-ups were fun. I apparently missed the info button, like you explained it, was like, oh, there's an info button. That's how I would know they were. I mean, I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, more gun items, let's do that. I would just pick things of not really knowing what they were doing, but I could tell sometimes. Like there was one point I picked a weapon power-up and my bullets were coming out of 4 directions. I was like, oh, that did something. So where you can make it really obvious, like you pick this thing and it did a thing. So even like your armor plating item, if that changed the art on the ship and made it really obvious, now your ship has more armor plating, it would help sell that a little bit more. But like, good job in the art, love the music, it was pretty clear. Just next iteration, more clarity and feedback.
Can you hit the info button on armor plating and then hull improvements? Okay, and then hull improvements, please. Okay, so some of the upgrades were super awesome, like bigger, better bullets was bigger, better bullets, loved it. And some of them were a little bit confusing because we didn't have any context. Plus 25 out of what? Does plus 25 mean I have 50% more hit points? Because since you do a great job of showing the hit points just through the red and green bar below, but not the scope, so we didn't understand what the upgrades were. However, fantastic job on the upgrades overall. They were all really cool. I'm glad to see it. Difficulty-wise, really, really, really hard. And that's not necessarily bad, because you get the upgrades out pretty frequently, but I couldn't tell if the upgrades were worth it. I think if there's one iteration I would suggest, it would be to show how damaged the little enemy ships are. Some sort of like cracks appear on them or something so that I would know. Because I would just fire and fire and fire, and eventually it would disappear, and I killed it. And I wanted to be able to be a little bit more tactical as I got used to the controls and say, that one's almost dead, so I'm going to try to finish it off since they rush us so fast. You could also solve this by having them rush you a little bit slower. But you know that you're a little overwhelmed, you have enough health to survive until your first upgrade. I wish I knew exactly how well the upgrades were doing so that I could effectively start to build an arsenal to handle those little bastards. But another great job with tons of great little techniques, and especially the upgrades. It's really good, and mostly the feedback was very clear. Just the enemy ship health would be the one thing I would add if I could.
Yeah, so for this one I have 2 main things. So the first thing that I have is I'm going to talk about the difficulty. The difficulty at the start, excuse me. So at the start of the game, the difficulty, it felt like it was difficult for sure. I remember starting it up and in 5 seconds I was at like half health. That was really good, and you rewarded me for that difficulty because whenever I killed a few of the spaceships, I was rewarded with a power-up. Now, the second point I want to talk about is with the power-ups. By the time I got to maybe the second or next stage, the power-ups that I had received had become invalid, and they became invalid by the difficulty height. I felt that like even though I had more armor plating or hull improvements or even just more firing mechanisms, it still felt like I was playing in level 1 because the difficulty had matched my current power. And this goes like into a balancing. If you can figure out a way to balance that and have it be more of a on-ramp instead of just taking it to 0 to 100 with each step, then you have like a really solid foundation for future levels. But yeah, great job on the soundtrack, the art. I love the UI. I love how things are communicating to me like at the bottom. Easy to see with my eye. Yeah, really solid.
Thank you.